This is Vandal 12A. I'm your host. Um, Welcome to the Station House podcast. I have a very special guest today. Um, he's a comedian, he's an actor, he has his own cooking show. He's also a volunteer police sergeant. Welcome, Jesse, to
How
the
you doing?
podcast.
How you doing?
I'm
Welcome.
good. How you
Good to
been
be here.
today?
I've been good. I've been just home resting. I didn't do any cooking today because my other half is on actually on vacation. Well, we went to see some wrestling at in Canada. So he's actually sent me some pictures of Niagara Falls. That's where he was today. So
Mm, I'm actually a big fan of your cooking show. I watch it every day.
oh,
Especially
thank you.
your lasagna one. No, the
Oh,
your what's that cake you make? The flan one.
oh, the flan. Oh yeah, yeah. I haven't done one in a while. I gotta cook. I gotta get one done. It's got a lot of sugar, no good for you.
I know. All right, so let's talk about. So tell me a little bit about yourself. How many years you been in the volunteer police as a volunteer police officer?
I've been doing volunteer police for 31 years.
31
31 years.
years, more than I've been alive.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long you been a sergeant as well?
I lost track of that. I've been a sergeant for what, maybe about 15 years, I would say, give or take. Yeah.
15 years. Wow.
And I'm
So
hoping I'm hoping to get promoted to lieutenant, but there's a tie up now, but we'll see how that works.
oh man. So for those of you that don't know, I was actually a volunteer police uh for probably like 8 years. And Jesse was my supervisor in the as a volunteer police. So I have a lot of good memories with him. He's a great sergeant. He's a very actually good comedian.
Try
He
to
makes
be.
all of us laugh. So let's see. So let's start off by do you have any stories on like any situations that like any dangerous situations when when you were a are a volunteer police, like what like any dangerous situations that you've been a part of
I
in
mean,
those 31 years?
I've been involved in so many things, but one that comes to memory, and it's kind of a bad memory, but I guess I'm traumatized. One of the first things that happened when I started as an auxiliary, um, uh, this guy was on the subway. The train was elevated, and this guy was going from one train car to the other, and he had a few drinks, and he fell in between, and four of those subway cars ran over him. And I was like one of the first responders there. We had to stop traffic. It was quite a scene, and it was. I mean, I was a rookie, and to see this for the first time was crazy, and it's always been in my head. And every time I get in the subway, and I see somebody crossing through those doors, I get a flashback because I go, oh my God, the people don't realize how dangerous. You lose your balance, you fall between these subway cars, and you're done. You're done. You know. So yeah.
Wow. um I do have a story about like something similar to that that happened to me when I was in a volunteer police in the same precinct as you. I don't know if you remember the situation where I was a field training officer, right, that day, FTO, and I was training these five rookies, and um, I was taking them on the train to switch posts to Parkchester, and I don't know if you remember, but
Was
there was
the
this
guy who fell into
Mexican guy.
the guy who fell into the tracks?
No, so he was in the we went upstairs by the platform, and there was this Mexican guy. He was like, "Hey, could you call a bus for me?" So I said, "Okay." So I turned around
Well, he
and I
said
was
an
trying to
ambulance, right?
train.
He didn't say a bus, right? He
Well,
said
no,
ambulance.
he can ambulance.
Nobody knows what a
And
bus is.
yeah, so pretty much a bus is called a code name for an ambulance. So he asked to get help. So I turned around and I'm training the rookies how to go on the police radio, and that was the biggest mistake. So when I turned around and I was training these rookies, he says, "No, I want to die today." So when I turned around, he tried to push us in the tracks while the train was coming full force. And I managed to grab him in a headlock, and I pushed myself back. So he fell on top of me, and all the other guys fell on, like, pretty much they all fell on top of me. So we didn't fall in the tracks, we just fell in the concrete and the platform. So we're there fighting with the guy because I'm freaking out, whatever. And I managed to get my radio, and I actually called for an 85. And 85 is like you calling for help, for assistance, like, cop down, whatever. And the CEO of the precinct at the time came rushing. It was like a big scene. So by the time they got there, um, the guy had like a bloody nose. He was all beat up, and the CEO was
Hey,
like, "Who called
it
an
happens.
85?"
It
Huh?
happens. It happens.
Yeah. So he said, "Who called an 85?" I said, "Yes, sir, I did." And he was like, it was a funny story. He was like, "You called an 85 for this? You beat the fuck out of this guy, but you know what? Good job, kid." So they kind of understood like why we took that measure, because first things first, we're kids. Like most auxiliaries, most of them are young kids. To begin with, volunteer cops. So um, you're pretty much learning as you go. So that was one of those things where I could have lost my life, and all of us,
Sure.
by that moving train. So um, the guy, I think, ended up getting nothing. Like they collared him, they arrested him, but he ended up coming out. I
Lucky I
saw him
wasn't.
like,
Lucky I
huh?
wasn't there. Lucky I wasn't
I
there.
saw
I would
him
have
like
taken it.
2 weeks
I would have
later
taken care of
in
him.
the same platform.
I don't go for that nonsense. I would have taken care of him.
Unbelievable. But that's one of the stories, one of the many stories I have in there. So let's see. So after all these years, you've been in, 31 years. What keeps you going? What makes you want to continue volunteering? Because that's a lot of that's a very strong commitment.
It is.
I did about
It
8
is a.
years, and it was a
It
lot
is
for
a
me.
strong commitment. I mean, it. I like getting involved. I like helping out people, and I always like to do the right thing. I always, like I say, do the right thing. And when I see something that's not right, and somebody doing something that's not right, I have to be nosy and get my foot into it, basically. But that's what it is. It's all about putting in input. I don't like people getting abused. I don't like senior citizens getting abused. I just don't like people doing the wrong thing, and that's what keeps me going. And like I said, basically, I like to help out. And if I see something that's not right, I jump in. The other day, I was in the subway station. People think I'm crazy, but I was in a train station. I was going to Dunkin' Donuts. And here I am. I'm working on my regular job. I have nothing to do with this train station. And I'm going to go buy donuts at the train station. And there's a tour guide with about 50 kids from Italy. Hey, so they're sitting in the steps, and there's no way to go down to the train station. Like this is I'm from the department. I call myself from the Department of Common Sense. Come on, hey. So they're sitting there on these steps, and I got pictures. I'll show you the pictures one day. And you couldn't walk down. So I went over to the token booth, and there was a lady in the booth. I call it token booth. That shows my age. They don't sell tokens anymore. But the clerk in the booth, or whatever you want to call it. So I went there, and as I'm telling her, she's talking to the lady in charge of the group, telling them, "Listen, you got to get these kids out of here." So I jumped in, of course, me, and I said, "Listen, miss, I am in charge of this building. I am the superintendent of this whole building where this train station is, and you got to get these kids out of the way." Well, she got them out of the way. So that's what I get myself sometimes in trouble, because I get involved in things that I should. But that I felt that I had to put my 2 cents in it. And it's true. You got to let people walk up and down. And the lady at the clerk was telling them, "Listen, you got to get these kids move out of the way, because people have to. It's a tripping hazard." So that's what I do. I get involved in stuff, like that.
As you should.
Fine. Yeah. I mean, it's only common sense. Common sense. You're blocking. If you're sitting there in the steps and you see people walking around you, then obviously you're in the way. So
That's
they
true.
call me. They call me crazy. But that's what
So
I do.
all right. So let's talk about so what's different from when you started as a volunteer police 31 years ago to now? Like, what is the big difference? Like, what changed? Especially like in the streets out there. Like, first and first, let's start out by saying, how was it 31 years ago? Because there's a lot of documentaries out there, like the 7-5, like how all those cops would talk about how dangerous it was back in the days. How was it for volunteer cops back in the days? I mean, 31 years ago. I mean,
Well, for
because I
one thing,
remember, because back in the days, well, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys didn't have police vests until those two volunteer cops died in 2007,
that
correct?
that's correct. Yeah. So 31 years ago, we our uniforms were basically the same. We wore the same uniform as the police. We had that baby blue shirt, whatever the hell that color was, and but it was a little bit disorganized. A lot of the cops didn't recognize the auxiliaries. You know, they just didn't know what auxiliaries were about. Um, the whole department itself uh, just had the auxiliaries there because they had to, because it's mandated. It's a law, state law, that every state has to mandate some kind of auxiliary force. So we were there because we were there. Um, but the changes now, well, of course, like you mentioned with the bulletproof vest. Unfortunately, I was on patrol that night when that happened. That happened in the village in Manhattan, but I was in the Bronx. But I heard on the radio what was going on. So
So how was that night like? Was like when you heard
it
it
it was crazy.
on
I
the
remember
radio?
like it was yesterday. I was in a subway. Actually, I was in Parkchester, and I was on with my partner who passed away, and we heard something on the radio in the citywide band about two officers down and blah, and whatever it was. And at first they actually thought it was two regular officers that were down. And by the time I got to the precinct and drove all the way back then, I used to live in Manhattan, which I still do. But when I got to my parents' house, actually, I lived with my parents back then. By that time I got home, it was in the news, and they were announcing there was two auxiliary officers that had got shot in the village in the sixth precinct. So unfortunately, after that, all auxiliaries were given, issued bulletproof vests. And actually, I've gotten I'm working on my second vest because they actually, those vests don't last that long, and you have to change them every so often, whatever it is. But that's one of the things that came out, and now the police department really respects auxiliaries, and they realize that we we're needed. We're needed for the small things that there's not enough police officers. Exact Actually, after the pandemic, a lot of cops retired, and we now taking up the slack. We out there in street fairs. We're directing traffic. We go to different training. We get CPR training, which didn't happen back then. So many things are involved, and the police bosses now really want the auxiliaries. They love the auxiliaries. They want the auxiliaries. They demand more from us. So we're up there. We're up there, and the cops. We have a great relationship with the cops, and they we get equipment. We have better equipment, better training, and it's going to get better. I think it really is. So yeah, so it has changed. Of course, 31 years changes a lot of things. Yep.
Well, yeah, when I was there, like when I first started, I remember I'm not gonna say the precinct that we did it, auxiliary, but when I was there, in the beginning, the cops didn't really kind of respect us a little. Like you had a few pockets of like groups of cops that respect us, others don't. But I remember in that precinct, this encounter changed the way they looked at us. Well, from my perspective, because everybody had a different perspective. But I remember, I think you were there actually. We were going to a funeral detail. I think one of the cops' families died or something like that, and then we had to go show support. And on our way over there, um, there was a cop outside, like he was under the train, and I don't know what happened, but we happened to caught him getting hit with like a steel chair, like under the train. I'm not sure if you recall that day, but our coordinator at the time um turned the car over, and we all ran outside, and we actually grabbed the perps and everything, and they called an 85 and stuff like that. And that was the one time where everything started to change. Like from my perspective, with those cops that didn't like auxiliaries, they were like, okay, you know what? Like these guys have our backs, and we
Yeah.
actually not saying that we saved the cop's life but we ended up making sure that he didn't get no extra damage because he got hit really hard in the face with with the chair. So that was one of the
I mean,
incidents
you know,
where
it takes
the
a lot.
respect changed
It,
for
it,
us.
it takes a lot for a person to put on a uniform that you look exactly like a cop and you don't have a gun. So they have to give us that kind of respect, and people have to admire what we do. There's not too many people who will put on a police uniform and go and walk the streets without a gun. You got to face it. So it's a special person that really takes a special type of person that does this. And you know, the police have realized that, and the bosses have realized that, and the citizens of New York have realized that we're out there with only a nightstick as a weapon, and we're taking a chance. We're a target because when people look at a police uniform, they don't look to see if the guy's carrying a gun in his waist. He's, you know, somebody who's out to get a cop is out to get a cop, and he just looks at the uniform. So it takes a lot. It takes a special human being to do what I do, what you did. It does. It really does.
I loved every bit of it. I gotten into like I remember like all right, so it all right, so look, this is one of the situations that I got myself into off duty. That was probably one of the most dangerous situations I've been a part of as a auxiliary. But even though I was off duty, but I had to kind of um like step in and show my shield and ID. So I was on the train heading home from back in the days. I was a security guard, and I was in 125th Street train station, and I'm hearing on the speaker, we need a police officer in the front of the train. They kept saying it. So I'm looking around and I'm like, where's the cops? So I said, you know what? Let me go check it out. If it's not too dangerous, I'm gonna intervene. So as I'm walking to the middle of the platform, um, there was this girl, and she was stabbing this guy like with these two little knives. She stabbed him like at least 4 or 5 times in the chest, and then he collapsed. And then she runs up to the second platform. He gets up and he chases her to the second platform, and I'm like, oh my god, there's blood everywhere. So I ran after them, went to the second platform. This is like a movie. She stabs him again, like 3 or 4 times with these two little like knives. It was like they're very small, and he's holding his chest, and she runs to the last platform. And I'm like, you know what? I have to catch this girl. She's just probably committed murder. So he gets up after I thought he was dead. He chases her to the last platform, and I'm like, you know. So as I'm running, chasing after them, I saw this off-duty cop. He takes his gun out. He's pointing it at her to drop the knife, drop the knife. And this is when I say, you know what? I have to jump in now.
In front
So,
of the gun?
huh?
You jumped in front of the gun?
No, 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 no. He was
Okay.
a off-duty cop. He presented
Oh,
himself
yeah,
as
I
a, as
mean,
a
I
cop.
hope so. I mean,
So I ran over there, and there was a lot of gang members surrounding the cop, and they were trying to hit him. They were like, like making a riot. So I told the guy, listen, I'm an off-duty auxiliary. I got your back. And I kept saying, do you need my help? And he was like, okay, yes, I do. So me and him went back to back. It was like a movie. We went back to back.
that sounds like a
We were
movie.
touching each other. He was pointing the gun at the female, and I was trying to make sure that those guys don't hit him. Long story short, somebody called 911, and they said a cop got stabbed in the neck. Some crazy thing. Cops started running from every direction. Um, they pointed the gun at us because they saw his gun. We all went on the floor. Then I told them that I was a volunteer cop, whatever, and I told them what happened. And they told me to get up, whatever. And so to find out that the off-duty cop was a what was he wasn't NYPD. He was State Park Police, I think it was. And they ended up taking my ID information, and they're quoting my coordinator, and they were happy about what I did, but they were also concerned because I could have got killed in that situation. But I was very young.
You have
I was
to,
probably like 3 years in
you have
auxiliary.
to, in a situation like that, you have to really ascertain the situation. You have to look and make sure that your safety is first before
Mhm.
you try to save somebody else, because it's you first. if you can't save yourself, then you can't save others. So you have to make sure that you're in a safe situation. So
Yeah, and the reason why I joined auxiliary is because of those two auxiliaries that died in 2007. Uh, Later on, when it hit like 2010, 2011, uh, I started searching up what was auxiliary, and then I ended up seeing those. I don't know. Is it something about what happened to them kind of encouraged me to actually join the department even more. I don't know,
that's
just
another
seeing
that's a
them.
that you know that's another thing with me. I mean, I live in Manhattan most of my life. I lived in Jersey for a while and Brooklyn, but I live in Manhattan. I'm a Manhattan boy, and I've devoted 31 years to the Bronx. So that speaks a lot that I serve the community of the Bronx that I don't even live in. So and I chose that precinct because I had some friends, some coworkers that got me involved in the program. And I said, well, I don't live in I don't live in the Bronx. And they said, yeah, but just, and I was kind of shy to get into this program. So I said, so they told me, well, you take the classes with us and we all take the class together, whatever it is. And then you can transfer to your local precinct. Well, 31 years later, I'm still in the Bronx. So short story. So,
Yeah.
so the people of the Bronx should clap for me because 31 years and counting.
That's-
And I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna probably make lieutenant hopefully soon, and then maybe after that I'll retire. I'll retire as a lieutenant, but I'll keep
How
going.
many years
And
you have in you?
in what? In,
How many more years you have in it, like to be a volunteer police? Like how many more years you think that like, you have left
well,
before you say, you know what,
I want
I'm
to
gonna
be
give
there
it quits.
until I can do it no more. I mean, not only it's about it's not only about the police, the what we go through, what we do, but it also helps. It's a therapy because I go there, sometimes I'm pissed off, sometimes I'm down, sometimes, and we're like family, especially in that precinct. So we go there, we joke around, and we pass the time. A lot of the older auxiliaries that don't even go out anymore, that's what they do. They sit in the office, drink coffee. You know who they are. But it gives them something to do. It gives them something to do, and I like that. It's part of family. We do picnics. We go do a party in Christmas and all that stuff. So it's not only all the time doing police work. It's also it's like it's like a group, it's like a club. And you go there and you talk to people and the change of scenery. So that's one of the reasons I think I keep going because it keeps me sane. It gives me something to do. And as long as I can do it, I'll do it. Right now, I mean, I can hardly walk and I'm still out there in uniform. I can't run anymore. So if criminals, I'll let the rookies chase them. I'll show up sometime. Yeah.
That was good. All right, so let's switch up a bit. So let's all right. So what made you want to be a comedian? Because for the 10 year, for the what,
Well,
13 years I've known you,
well, I
you
don't think anybody wakes up one day and says, you know what, I'm going to be a comedian. I don't think it's one of those things. I think you're born with it. To me, it runs in the family. My father's funny. I have a late uncle who's hilarious. I think it runs in the family, the humor. And I've always been like the class clown, and it got me in trouble, of course. But I've always been. I've always like to make people laugh. And I have a saying that I tell people, if I can make one person in the world each day laugh, my job here on earth has been done. You know what I mean? I like to make people laugh. Even sometimes I'm down, I suffer from depression. I suffer, but there's times I make people laugh. I make people laugh, and that gives me energy. And I do
yeah,
it on Facebook. I do it at work.
when I was on my lowest point, you were actually there for me, and you made my auxiliary. The remaining years that I was an auxiliary before I became a full time police officer. You made it memorable because there'll be times where it's like you said, like there'll be times where I'll be down. And I just go to the program, and it's like a family. So you
Yeah,
guys
it's,
always
it's a
build
therapy.
me up when I was down and out. So auxiliary will always be like a part of me, like no matter where I go, because that's where I learned policing. Like all like where else can you get um all this experience, pretty much starting as a kid, you know,
I mean,
all the way up, you know.
I feel, I've been a sergeant for a long time, and by now with 31 years, I should be like auxiliary commissioner. But what I get pride, what I get joy out of is seeing people join the auxiliary, go through the program, and become either cops or go up in the ranks. The deputy inspector Garcia, who retired about a year ago, I fingerprinted the guy. He came in after I did, and I fingerprinted the guy. And the guy ended up to be retiring as a deputy inspector. And like I told my coordinator, that gives me pride that I take people and I train them and I shove them off like a parent. Here you go. And that gives me pride. And people tell me, why are you still a sergeant? Well, I like the way I am. I like to be with the troops. Once you become lieutenant up, it's a little bit, I won't even mention what it is, but be a sergeant, I'm out there with the troops, and I want to be out there with the troops, and I want to train them, and I want to help them and guide them. And if I could make a bunch of those guys go up, move up in the ranks, or become real cops like a few have, that makes me good. Makes me feel good. Makes me feel proud that I had an impact in their life, and they're moving on. So that's me. Maybe I was a teacher in another life. I don't know. But
That's good.
getting back to being a comedian, yeah, it runs in the family. Like I said, I love to make people laugh. I go into a room where people don't know me, and I make them laugh. And it's like, oh my God, yesterday I went to a wake. A friend of mine passed away, and I met a bunch of people there. Yeah, I met a bunch of people there in the funeral home. I'm making people laugh in the funeral home. And one guy, even, I don't know where the guy seen me, but he told me he knows me from somewhere, and he knew my name, my last name, or part of it. And he shook my hand at the end when we were leaving, and he says, I'm honored to meet a celebrity. And that made me feel good, So somewhere out there in cyberspace, somewhere, people know me one way or another, whether it be in my MTA segments of MTA A-hole segments, which we haven't discussed.
And we're definitely going to talk about that
or my cooking show, or being out there just talking. People know me, and I walk by sometimes, and it brings me joy when people wave to me, and I don't know who the hell they are. And they're saying, "Hey, Uncle Jesse." And I'm like, I went to a doctor's appointment. These two girls were saying, "That's him, that's him." And I'm like, "Who the hell is these two?" She said, "That's Uncle Jesse." And the other girl saying, "No, he's not." And I'm like, so people know me. I'm not that famous. I don't want to blow wind up my skirt, but I am noticed out there. Yeah.
So, all right. So I know you did a few commercials.
Yeah.
So, how did you?
My dream is to become an actor, big time on TV. As I've just gotten as far as doing commercials, and that was great. And but I still inspire on. I mean, I know I'm not gonna do like an action movie with these guys, like a True Lies kind of movie. But I want to do I want to do something, be on the show, even in the background. If whatever role I play, if I play a hobo in a trash can in the background, I'd be happy. But acting has always been my dream, and I wasted a lot of years. When I should have started out young, I should have went to high school performing arts and whatever. But I started. It's never too late to start, right? And I'm getting out there, and I'm just a little bit shy and a little bit timid when it comes to that. And I've had my chance. I get this agency that keeps sending me emails all the time to come in for interview, and I get nervous and I don't show up. But
I think you'll do great.
I mean, from what people tell me, I'm a natural, and I don't even know how. I don't know how to act. I just do what I gotta do, and they tell me I'm a natural. But I've done some commercials for a company called Quell, which is a medical device that sends electrodes into your skin up to your brain, and then your brain lets go of endorphins, which is the body's natural pain relievers and stuff. So they flew me out to Sarasota, Florida, like a VIP. I was a limo waiting for me and the whole thing. And I spent 3 days in Florida filming a commercial. I did a commercial on the top of the Freedom Tower for a company called Usables or something like that. It's people who live with devices that they use devices to go through life, whether being a heart machine or whatever it is. I did a commercial for them called Wearables, and I did a commercial for that. And then I did a couple of commercials for that company Quell. And it was funny because seeing myself on TV, oh my God, I got really excited. I won't tell you how excited, but I got excited. But yeah.
Mm,
But someday you'll see me on TV. Someday you will. I've been on the
someday I
news.
will.
Hey,
So, all right. So, this is the best segment. So that I want to talk about.
I
All
can't
right.
see it. I
So
can see it
all right.
coming.
So let's talk about the MTA a-holes.
Oh,
Right.
that's a big one.
So for those that don't know, Jesse travels on the MTA trains and he searches for MTA a-holes. He takes
I do.
pictures of them. So explain to me, how did you come up with the MTA a-hole and what is that to begin with?
Well, I guess I'm a kind of a neurotic guy, right? And I like things done the right thing. And part is one of my bad things about being neurotic. Like things bother me. I let little things bother me. But that's the way I am. I can't change it, right? I guess it runs in my father's like that too. I guess I get it from the old guy. But anyway, uh, there's things that people have to act like people. We gotta act. I mean, and we're all in this together. This is one planet, one Earth, one train system, and people have changed throughout the years. People now, are, of course, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but people are selfish nowadays. It's about them, and then them. So people get into the subways, they take up 2 seats, and then sometimes when you say "excuse me," they want to beat you up. They want to, they want to curse you out. So people are scared. I've seen people take up 3 seats, and nobody dares to tell them anything. So that's not the right thing to do, folks. That really is. It's not. It's not. You pay 275 or whatever. 290 is going up next week. Uh, I always have a saying: one fare, one chair. That's it. One chair, one fare. And that means you pay 275 for one seat. It's not a chair, but you get the idea, right? So going in there with bags, you put your purse there, you put your bicycle. I've seen people coming with stoves, refrigerators. I'm telling you, I got pictures to prove it. People coming with dogs and they sit them on the seat. I mean, that's not the right thing to do, folks. Come on, be conscious of your surroundings, of your people. We're all in this together. It's selfish. So I started one day taking pictures. I took a picture. I forgot which was my first picture, but I took somebody doing something stupid. Now, I've been attacked because of that. I It's not about making fun of people. It's not about uh, making them look stupid. It's about bringing to light something that they're doing wrong in a humorous way. So I want to make people laugh, but at the same time realize, yeah, they're doing, they're taking up 2 seats. That's not the right thing to do. But laugh about it. Okay. So and I don't take pictures of homeless people because unfortunately homeless people they can't help it. They live in it. Some of them live in a train. So I would never take pictures of homeless. I do take pictures of regular working people who put their feet up on the seat, who bring their bags, who bring their dogs, and or they spread their legs and they do all kind of crazy stuff, hang up luggage on top of it. I've seen people on the E train, they have like a rack and people put up their luggage up there. This is not the train to the plane. Okay. So that's what it's about. It's called MTA, and of course, it's named after the MTA. The MTA a-hole. I didn't want to call them assholes because they're too offensive. A-hole is close enough. You get the idea. So MTA a-hole. And it started out as a-hole of the day. Every day I went out and made a mission to get one picture. And then it started out
You
piling up
even caught
pictures.
me. You even
Yeah,
caught me
I've
at
caught
one
people.
point.
I
You
caught
took
a
a picture
coworker of
of
mine
me.
that I thought he was gonna beat me up. But hey, you were an a-hole. You got caught. I call my sister. I catch everybody doing it. And I travel. I haven't been doing it much because my walking is limited now. But I used to go sometimes when I had nothing to do, ride the trains up and down. People thought I was crazy, taking pictures of this stuff. And
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 the
they got to the
worst
point
part
people were sending
is,
me pictures. People, 99% of the pictures, believe it or not, I take them. But I got me fans now that are coming every day, and they're sending me pictures and stuff like that. And
and
then
the
that,
worst part is, like right now, I'm actually hurt. I actually got hurt on the job, so I've been out of work for like 3 months. So the worst part is when you have a cane, people are
I'm gonna tell you
taking
a story.
5 seats, and they don't even offer to like give you a seat.
I'm going to tell you 2 stories. I came in, I was going to go see my doctor with my boot. I had a boot on, one of those big giant boots. I looked like I'm going skiing, and a cane. So there's this lady sitting in the section where it's for handicap. There's a seat on the 6 train and some trains that say to give it up to a disabled person. Now, this lady was there sitting down, 2 story. She's on the phone. So I'm sitting there. I go right next to her. Maybe she get the message and gives me the seat. No. I put the cane, boom, right between her legs. Bam. No. Last thing I did was I put the cane on top of the seat. How freaking close can I get to you? And I put the seat like that. She looked up, she looked at me, and just kept playing. At that time, I wanted to wrap the cane around her neck. So what happened? I have a friend who's a conductor who told me that if you go to the conductor and you tell him that you need a seat, he's obligated to tell somebody, please get up. Can't make them get up. But he tells them, please. So I went to the booth when it stopped. I was in the conductor's compartment there. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm handicapped, I got a problem and I need a seat. Now, at that point, I wanted her to get up, but he, of course, didn't get her up. He got somebody else out. Some guy gave me the seat. But that's the way people are. And the second story is I got onto a bus and it was crowded and I was with a cane and nobody got up. Everybody went to the phone. One guy opened up a magazine. Another guy opened up the New York Times. I took 2 seats. Nobody wanted to give me a seat. And I said, the hell with it. And then a lady said, can somebody please give this gentleman a seat? True story. And one guy says, he gave me the seat, but you have to beg for it. So yeah, but that's selfishness. So, it's tough because like I have a button that says, not all disabilities are visible. And that's important because a lot of disabilities are not visible. You see me running around, walking around, you don't think I have a disability, but I have a legitimate disability. I have a condition called Charcot foot where my foot collapsed and it's flat and it's bones all over the place. I have pins in my whole foot had to be restructured. It's a condition and it's a handicap. And if you see me, you say there's nothing wrong with this guy. So there's a lot of disabilities I'm not seen, and that's very important. And I have a button that I'll show you one of these days. I might want another show that says not all disabilities are visible. Whether be it a mental illness or physical illness, you just don't know. And so yeah, so people don't give a f. Yep.
Yeah, unbelievable. So, all right. So let's talk about real quick about your cooking show. I know we talked a little bit earlier about it. So,
Well,
um,
like I said, like comedy runs in the family, so does chefs. My uncle was a chef in the military, in the Navy. My father cooks since he was young. My nephew in Virginia cooks. He was also in the military, and a lot of the men in the family, my father's cousin used to cook, and I just picked it up. I just picked it up from watching my mother, preparing meats here and there. And I don't know how. I can't even tell you how I started cooking. But at first time I moved out of my parents' house to live in Jersey, and I just started cooking. Like I said, I can't tell you how I started, but I started cooking. And nowadays, all you gotta do is look it up. Google it. In my days, I had to like go to a cookbook or something, or call my mother and say, "How you do this?" So, and I like to experiment with stuff. And when I see something, I put my little touch to it, and that's how it is. And it's grown bigger, and it grew bigger. And during the pandemic, when I was bored, I was out of work for a year and 3 months. I started filming myself cooking, and people fell in love with it. And I have a few fans that if I don't show them the cooking show, they send me text. They go, "What is your cooking show?" I have this lady, loyal. She says I'm a therapist, and she says she has to see my cooking show every day. So even though it's amateur video, people get ideas from it, and I enjoy it, and I have to do it every day. And no matter how upset I am when I come out of work and anything like that, I have to do my cooking show. And sometimes I don't do it. Like today, I cooked something real quick. I didn't want to, but usually you'll find me in the kitchen like a show, Monday to Fridays. So that's where the cooking part comes up. And I love cooking. It's a therapy for me. I come from work, I'm pissed off, I'm tired. Some people go home and have a drink. I go home and cook, and it relaxes me. And people think I'm crazy. So how can cooking relax you? You know why? Because when you enjoy doing something, it's fun. When you do it because you have to, it's not.
That's true.
Just like a job. You find a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life again. Look at that saying. If you
That's a
ever
good
find a
quote.
job that you enjoy doing, you'll never work a day in your life because you'll enjoy what you're doing. That's
good.
that's from Uncle Jesse.
So all right. So let's talk. Let's talk. One last question. So I know that a lot of powerful people have hit you up on social media for your segments that has to do with Chelsea, that area. Like what? For those of you that don't know, Chelsea is a neighborhood in Manhattan, correct?
Yes, it's an up and coming neighborhood. It's one of the oldest neighborhoods in Chelsea. It was established in the 1700s, and actually, Clement Moore, the guy who wrote Twice the Night Before Christmas, that poem.
Mhm.
He lived in Chelsea, and that most of that Chelsea and the West Side was farmland owned by Clement Moore. And he wrote that poem that says Twice the Night Before Christmas, went all through the house and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, he owned a large part of Chelsea. So Chelsea, the boundaries of Chelsea is from 34th Street to 14th Street, from 6th Avenue to 12th Avenue. So that whole square, and some people debate it, but that if you Google it, that will tell you where it is. So Chelsea is an up and coming neighborhood nowadays. There's a lot of attractions. The Hudson Yards, the High Line, the Meat Market District is turned into a tourist area. When I grew up in it, was a middle class sort of rundown neighborhood, and believe it or not, the gays. And I got attacked for that, but somebody came out of my defense. The gays moved in the 80s to 8th Avenue from 23rd to about 17th Street. And they moved in and they opened up stores and boutiques and all kind of stuff. And the gays actually brought the neighborhood back up, And then now the gays moved, and 8th Avenue is like a Western town. I passed by it yesterday, and you got to look both ways because it's like a Western. It's a shame. But Chelsea is up and coming neighborhood, very expensive. I'm born and raised there. My parents lived there since the 50s when my father was in the Korean War. And I joined the page. I'm a moderator in one of the pages of Chelsea, and I put up pictures of Chelsea, and I do videos of past and present. I got a great memory, so I do videos with some of the people who, oh yeah, I forgot all about that. So I do videos of the neighborhood, and I talk about the neighborhood, and I do videos, and people have requests, and I go to places, and I do doors and buildings and stuff like that. So a couple of days ago, about a week ago or so, some lady took a picture of 14th Street and 10th Avenue, which is part of Chelsea. And it's changed a lot. The neighborhood's changed. Every week I go there, there's a new building put up where, like there wasn't there the night before. But she took a picture of 14th Street and 10th Avenue. She got attacked. She got so much attacked that they threw her out of the show, they threw her out of the page. She quit the page. She gave it up. And they were criticizing her for telling her that wasn't 14th Street and 10th Avenue. And that was in New York, and that can't be. I lived in Chelsea my whole life. And I made it a point. Let me tell you a story. I took my scooter and I went over there. First of all, I went to report what the hell was going on in Union Square, that riot that had nonsense. And what I do, I hit the curb and I crashed. I landed on my back. I'm still suffering. I am in the most painful. I got pain you can't imagine. I was out of work for 4 days. But even through all that, I got back on my scooter and went down there and did a video, a 25-minute video of the area. I stood in the middle of the street with a tripod and I'm showing the area. It's like, people, I'm not in California.
That was when the riots, the COVID
the riots. I was out there reporting live.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was out there reporting live. I got videos of that too. But anyway, that's what I do. I came on in defense of this lady because I don't like, again, it brings me back to, I don't like abuse. And that's one of the reasons it brings me back to being an exhibit. I don't like abuse. I don't like bullying. I was sort of bullied when I was younger, and I was made fun of because of who I am, and I hate bullying. So if I could ever stop it, I would do anything in my power to stop it. And that's why I went out there and I wrote this lady. I don't know her from Jack. I don't know her. She's an old-time neighborhood person, but I don't know her. But I sent her a text and said, listen, I'm going to watch my video. I'm going to do a video. She thanked me and everything. She says, I thank you and everything, but I am leaving the page because I can. And I don't blame her. But this is what I do. It's all back to doing the right thing. That's what I'm about. That's what Uncle Jesse is about. I don't ask you for anything more, but do the right thing.
So where can people find you on social media if they
want
to see your cooking show?
In the Chelsea page, I mean, you might not be interested in the Chelsea page, but if you want, there's a page in YouTube, my channel. It's called Chelsea in My Heart. And then my cooking channel is Cooking with Uncle Jesse. And then there's another page where I think it's just called Uncle Jesse on YouTube, which has a lot of comedy stunts that I do and impersonations and I film in my apartment, which that's a different story. But my apartment looks like a club on the weekends, and I put up shows and everything. And I love entertaining people. It's in me. I love entertaining people. So and of course in my page and Facebook, you'll see me every day with my cooking show, and you'll see me putting up crazy stuff and posting stuff, which sometimes I get it tight because some people have logs up their rear end and, don't have, it's my saying on Facebook, it's laughter is the best medicine. I'm telling you, laughter can wake up a dead body. I'm telling you. Because it's true. When people are down and under, you need a good laugh. You know how many times I've woken up where I'm depressed, I'm to the point I'm crying. And when somebody makes a remark about something that I posted, it brings a smile from ear to ear. And from that day, and then from that time, I start to change. Like I said, I love people. I love people making people laugh, and gives me joy. That's what keeps me going. And my fans keep me going. And I love my fans. And I always tell them, I love my fans. I always thank my fans. I always open up my segments with, thanking my family, friends, and fans, because they're the ones who keep me going. And whenever I become more famous on TV, I will always remember my fans, because without a fan, you're nobody. You can't put on a comedy show with nobody in the audience, right? Just your mother clapping. Imagine 350 seats in an auditorium, you saying jokes and your mother's clapping, but she has no choice. She has to clap for her son. But you have to have an audience, and that's what I.
So, any last words for any young kid who want to join being a volunteer police?
I can't force, because the police are not that popular, and it's not that cool, if you hang out with your friends and you're gonna become auxiliary, your friends are gonna say, oh yeah, popo, and all kinds, you know how that works. But if you really, really want to pursue a law enforcement career, whether it be a police officer or anything in law enforcement, the best way to start is in the NYPD auxiliary program. There's no doubt about it. You loosen up, you'll get to know the lingo and all that stuff like that, and it is a great start. But if you don't want to do that, there's a lot of, I encourage the youths. That's the problem with nowadays. There's not enough programs for youths. When I grew up, where I lived, there was a community center, there was basketball, there was soccer, there was games. And now they, unfortunately, because of budget cuts and all that kind of stuff and all this red tape, there's no programs for kids, and that's why kids are getting themselves in trouble. And I blame social media also as well. I didn't have social media, So my first cell phone was one of those Fisher Price that had the eyes that roll up and down. That was my first phone. Yeah.
Well, Jesse, thank you for being a good guest and joining.
And thank you for having me. And I thank you for having me. And like I said, whenever you want me to come back on the show, just check in with my secretary Jane and make an appointment.
All right, sir.
Jane happens to be a character. One thing, Jane has to be. Jane's has been with me for over 30 years. Jane, my secretary, but she doesn't exist as a character I made up. And I always tell people, call Jane, my secretary, and I brought it to life. Jane, the secretary. So remember that,
Jane,
folks. I love you guys.
Hit her up.
And hit her up. You'll find her. Call Jane or something. I forget. Anyway, folks, I love you guys. This is Uncle Jesse. Have a great weekend, whatever's left of it. I'm gonna go enjoy myself with a couple of drinks and some music and stuff like that. And I love you guys, and I love you for bringing me on the show.
Thank you. You've been very good to me in the auxiliary program, and you've been a good friend when I've been down and out. So I appreciate it, and I'll definitely probably in the future have a segment where I'll bring you into the show and stuff like that. But thank you again for joining, for being
Anytime.
the first.
Just check with Jane first.
First ever guest in this new podcast, the Station.
I'm honored to be the first guest.
So thank you so much, sir, and we'll see you later.
Good night. And remember, don't be an a-hole on the trains. This is Uncle Jesse signing out.
All right. Signing out.